When securely applying the net, you always need your client's assistance. You always want them to hold it firmly in place while you sew. When I'm applying the net, I usually sew on top of that first braid that we made, going right around onto the right side. I always thread my needle 2 arms length long and making a knot at the end. I do this to avoid any unraveling with the thread. I start my stitches by making small diagonal stitches on the braid. Once I get to the end of the other side, I start making back stitches to reinforce. So once I get to the back, I use a folding technique that helps me with stitching the net securely onto the braid. So when I'm folding, I usually use my finger as a placeholder, making small triangles so that my folds are not too big and not too small. When you're sewing, you usually find that most of the folding is done in the back versus on the sides, because I feel like once you've folded in the back, you automatically just even out the side. Once I get to this side of the head, I usually take the net from my client and I hold it because I find that it is more comfortable for me to do this and also more comfortable for me to sew while I hold it versus her holding it. Once I feel like there's no more space on that braid for me to stitch, I start stitching in a downward motion, making sure that the net is secured so that when I cut my thread, it doesn't unravel. Once it's time to cut the net, I usually make my first cut at the beginning of where my first braid starts, and then I basically just start to cut right around that, also making sure that you're paying attention to your client's hair and also the thread, because you don't want to, make a mistake and then you either cut your client's hair or unravel the thread and then you have to do this all over again. So once you've cut all the excessive net, this is what your application should look like.